Dusty, why don't you introduce our guests today?
Well, I'm thrilled to have two of my. I know he gets mad at me all the time, but I've told him that they're two of my favorite people.
He always says that, but we feel like we are.
But you are. I have some people that are not my favorites, so just know that.
I've never met them.
I have known these guys for a long time. I've known Jim.
I know. Yeah.
25, maybe longer years. And Melissa, just precious. I'm thrilled that we have Jim and Melissa Brady with us today to hear some of their stories, Dave.
Yes, we are excited. And you got to know, this is our first time to sit down at a table like this.
Right.
But we've been asking you guys almost since the first episode.
I'm so sorry.
We wanted them from the very beginning.
And
we
you
really
are
did.
the busiest people in
they
town.
are.
My husband is a slave driver.
We have no days off right now, but we are so blessed and grateful for what God has done. You know, when COVID hit, we all sat home all that time. And then when things started picking back up, they ever more picked up. And we have not had any time off. But I'm not going to complain. No. I'd rather be busy than bored, and we are busy, so we're so blessed.
Yep, you are.
Well, we are thrilled you carved out some time for us today, and I know you just got back in town. You're about to leave again.
Got in last night, leaving in the morning, and it's just run, but it's awesome.
Oh wait, we have time in the studio tomorrow as well.
Yes.
So I asked him this morning, when are we going to do laundry? I'm not sure yet, but we'll figure it out.
But he does all the laundry for you. Is that correct?
Well, you know what? I've got to tell you this. He didn't do laundry the first, many years we were married. And then my parents had some health issues, and he had to do laundry on his own. So now I'm going to, can I go ahead and just tell a funny story now?
Yes, come on.
So I'm in Ohio. I'm taking care of my parents because they're going through these health issues. And he calls me and he goes, I need you to tell me how to use the washer. And so I started explaining everything. Yeah, he was like, walk me through it. So I started explaining everything to him, and he goes, well, what's the big deal? Oh, my word, all you do is throw the clothes in there and put the soap in there? That's not a big deal. And then right in the middle of him making fun of all of it, he goes, wait, what's happening? And he had too much soap in there.
And
I had soap everywhere.
That's so funny.
You know, so I said, I need you to come home because I don't know how to wash these clothes. I grew up with 5 sisters and 2 brothers, and you know, the girls had their jobs and the boys had their jobs. Ours was the outdoor stuff.
What were your jobs? Just
well, actually, not many, because
That's what I would think.
as soon as I started doing something, my brother would say, "Go write a song. I'll take care of this." So he'd make me go write a song, and he would take care of everything else. But
that's awesome.
My sisters would wash the clothes. So, you know, I got married. Melissa washed the clothes. I never had to until just a few years ago.
You know, they make those little plastic bags that you just throw in there. And
he needs a little laundry pod, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
I need to get that for when you're not there.
That's funny. That's funny.
Cindy had left town one time, and she called or something, and I was literally, we had lived in the house 25 years. I was opening cabinets trying to find where we kept the plates.
You didn't even know.
Because I never go in the kitchen.
There you
unless
go.
it's
Oh, yeah.
to eat.
I've had company over with Melissa being gone, and I'm like, I can't find the coffee cups. I don't know. Why would she not put the coffee cups here? That's where I would put them, but not her. So I'm looking for everything. So I just live there and help pay the bills. I don't know where anything is.
He's learning, though. He did a laundry. You, washed some jeans last week?
I did, and I didn't turn everything blue, so that's good.
That's a step in the right
We've
direction.
all done that.
It is.
Us men have all done that a few times. I do believe.
I'm starting to figure it out.
I love it.
Obviously, I do all the laundry at my house.
Speaking of clothes, I got to tell you something funny. One of the first times Dusty and I ever met.
That's true.
We were doing some type of GMA event or something, and we kept showing up at the same places, and so we kind of started connecting. The funny thing about it was, many times we'd have the same shirt.
That's the truth.
And you know what? He's a great dresser, so I felt really complimented that that I would have the same kind of outfits he had. We'd have a Hugo Boss shirt or something that we found and thought was unique, and he'd have it too.
That's exactly right. In fact, the other day I was cleaning out my closet. People don't believe I clean out my closet, but I really did the other day, and I found this blue shirt that had big flowers on it. And it was a great shirt. And I remember you wearing it to a GMA event. And I thought, I need to get rid of this. I said, no, this is my Jim Brady shirt. And I put it right back in the closet. I made sure I tried it on. It fit. I said, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to show up one of these times.
Now we got to call each other and say, hey, what are you wearing? So we don't wear the
exactly
same
right.
outfit.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But I look at Dusty and see how mine is supposed to look.
No, that's
That's
not
exactly
true.
the
And
way.
he
That
looks
is
at
not
your
true.
hair and says,
That is the truth. How many times
Hey,
have I told
somebody
you?
did ask me the other day, they said, is that real? I said, do you think I'd buy this? And I don't know. I'd do a lot better if I was buying
How
it.
many times have I told you you have great hair?
Oh,
Dave
man.
has white hair,
yes,
but it's great hair.
At least
but
you
it's
still
white.
have it.
At least you
it's
have
white.
it.
It's white. And I've earned every one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bet you have.
So this is one of those interviews or conversations, we like to call them, that it's almost a little harder because we know each other so well
Right.
that I'm intrigued in these conversations when I get to ask questions I don't know the answer to. I know a lot about your story, and yet you guys continue to surprise me. You came up a while back, Jim, and you said, and I should have known this, but you said, hey, I said something about having a little studio at my house, and your response was,
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
you had
That's
been there
right.
and you
In
had
this Calendar Lane, and we had recorded there. And I was just in awe of walking into a place where Dave Clark, my gosh, who doesn't know that name?
yeah, right.
And I'm a credit reader,
You
Dave.
are,
And so before
yeah.
I met you, I knew your songs. I knew the
Yeah.
projects you were part of. And so Tony Turner and Lisa Turner, great friends of mutual friends of ours, he had a record company called Tradition Records. And Melissa and I and her dad were in a group called the Schulers.
Right.
We were recording for him. And we were doing something, and we couldn't get into a certain studio, Hilltops, where we were working. He said, hey, it's okay, we can't get in, but I've got a place where we can go. And when he told me where it was, Calendar Lane Studios,
That's
and
where
it
it
was
was
Dave
back then.
Clark's, and my goodness, while
That
people were in the
is
control
funny.
room, I was looking around the house going, wow, this is Dave Clark's
yeah,
place.
that's pretty
I
impressive.
absolutely
yes.
was. So
Now, here's what I remember.
I love
I
this.
was sitting on the couch while they were recording vocals and waiting for my turn. And I love to read.
Yep.
And there was your book. And I sat there and started reading your book and then started crying and then being all stopped up and
Which book
sniffling.
would that have been?
It was your story.
Oh, okay, yes.
And so I sat
I did
there
not
and
write
read
it,
it.
but-
Oh, you didn't write that one?
no.
Oh, sorry. Well, see.
No,
I don't have all
but
the
you know
information.
what?
that's his story.
I learned a lot when I read it. It was a story that someone had written, and it wasn't necessarily about me as much as a healing that
Yes,
took place.
yes.
Wow.
Oh, I cried like a baby.
Wow.
And then I had to record after that.
You're
so
quick
it's
to
probably
tears
a
too.
little, oh.
Yeah.
So when you hear stuff like that, we were somewhere a few weeks ago, and there were two different people that came up and said, "Hey, we recorded at your house," and that's
Wow.
an odd feeling. But we always had people that there were a couple people we trusted, and
Sure.
so I don't think I was there. I would have remembered.
No, you weren't there, because
No.
if you would have been, I'd have been drilling you for stories.
Yeah.
How'd you write this song?
That's
Tell me
exact-
about this song.
So if you know Tony Wood, you've heard Tony's story about his first time there.
Oh yeah.
That he was going to see what books I read.
Oh,
And
that
he
makes
said-
sense. Yep.
He said that's what he had always heard, is that somebody that writes songs, you want to know what books they read. He said, so when first time I went there, he said, I was excited to see, and he said, I walked in and there was not one book on the shelf, but the entire collection of Hogan Shiro's DVDs.
That's funny.
Which is true.
That's great. That's great.
That's
So if you ever come back there again, I will make sure I'm there this time.
Oh, it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
But have been a fan for a long time.
Oh yeah.
So you talked about the Schulers, and there's a great 9 years worth of stories there.
Absolutely.
All right, so let me tell you something about my son. Have you met my son Sam?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so let me tell you about he and his wife real quick, and you tell me if any of this sounds like something maybe you could relate to. They met when they were 11 or 12. He and his wife, and they were both in music. She wasn't allowed to date until she was 16.
Oh my goodness.
So the first time he really asked if he could do something, he asked if he could sit with her at church. Any of this ringing any bells? at all?
Oh, absolutely, a lot.
It's
sounds like our
scary.
story.
It's
How
so
parallel,
similar,
yeah.
Absolutely our story, because Melissa and I, our dads were both evangelists, and our moms and family all traveled with Dad, and we would sing for Dad's revivals. And that's how we met. Her and I were about 12 years old, and met at this camp meeting.
We were just friends.
And I went to her dad. We're like 12 years old, and I went to her dad, or I went to her and said, can I sit with you in church? She said, well, you'll have to ask my dad. And so I went to her dad. I mean, and I'm not, people think I'm very, very outgoing, but I wasn't then. And I went to her dad and I said, "Can I sit with Melissa in church?" And he said, "What do you want to do that for?" And I'm like, "Well, because she's pretty, she sings good. I don't know." He said, "Sure, you can sit by her." He said, "Come on my bus." He said, "Come to the back of the bus." He said, "Let me show you my gun collection first."
That is so.
So he showed me his gun collection. Said, "Sure, you can sit by her." But I knew who was boss, and we were 12 years old, and I started writing her letters at that age. And her mom wouldn't let her write. Her mom was more strict, I think, than her dad.
Well, he just let mom take care of it.
Right, and she couldn't date actually till she was 16.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept writing her. When she turned 16, I called her on her birthday and said, "All right, you're 16. Let's go out."
Did you write him back? Were you able to write him back?
Didn't you write and say, "I can't write you until I'm 16"?
I think I did.
She wrote
Yeah,
me
I was
back
like, I'm not allowed to write you until I'm 16.
She wrote me back and said, "I can't write, but I wanted you to know why I'm not responding. But when I get 16,
did you keep writing to her?
I did.
That is so.
I
still
never
have
heard
those.
that.
And when
have
she
those
turned
letters.
16, I called her on her birthday, on the 16th birthday, and said, "All right, you're old enough now. Go out with me." And it was, it was love at first sight for me. I think it took a little while for her to be convinced, but
Yeah, but
Wow.
that's what she says. Long before then, she had already told her dad, if I remember this right, that you were the one.
Oh no, not before that.
Not before that?
No,
tell me what happened.
We were scheduled to sing at the same event. We were both in our early 20s, scheduled to sing at the same event. And my parents and I think we got food poisoning or something. We were so sick, and just Sprite and popsicles, for a couple of days. And he actually said to the pastor, "Well, Melissa could come." They flew me into the event. So
Yeah,
I'm
they were
about
going to have
20.
to cancel the event because they got sick. And
Yeah, I
said,
called to cancel.
I said, "She's better. Her mom and dad are still sick, but see if she can come. She has a solo record. See if you can just bring her." He said, "Well, I'll call." So he calls your dad.
And so they flew me in, and I sang at this conference that entire week. And that's when I called Dad.
Okay.
And I said, I could not say, "I like you." I could not say, "I think you're cute." All I did was giggle and act silly. I was just so nervous to talk to him. And he'd say, "Why are you laughing at me?" And I said, "I'm not laughing at you." But I called and I said,
great.
"Dad, he's the one."
That's
So,
One
yeah.
of the things, I went to the preacher when I found out that her dad was going to let her fly in. I said, "You need any help going to the airport and picking her up?" He's like, "You can ride. Get in. You can ride with me." So I went with him, got her luggage, and helped her that week. And
Subtle.
He was such a gentleman.
I
Very
joked with her dad and said, "You weren't there, so I was able to make my mark."
That is so.
But yeah, she told her
funny.
dad
Yeah.
that week. She said, "He's
This
the
is
one."
it.
Yeah.
And so, but we were in our 20s at that time, and so
Now-
Yeah, very.
From the time you were 16, when you did date, to 20, were you all still in touch with each
Well,
other?
we didn't really date, did
Okay,
we?
did you go out one
I
time?
was
Well,
able
yeah,
to write with him.
Okay.
when we were 16, we started the
You
relationship,
conversing.
but
Okay.
we
Yeah.
were on the road.
Okay.
I was on the road with my
Okay.
family. She was on,
Mm-hmm.
and so we would see each other periodically at different conferences or meetings and things. And so we stayed in touch. But when we made that connection at that conference,
You
when she
knew.
flew in by
That was
herself,
it.
that was it. And it was probably another year. The next year we were
Year and a
married.
half. We
About
got
a year and a half later,
Wow.
we were married. So
Wow.
it's been a great journey.
That's great. And
Yeah.
it still seems to be working.
Still, we're actually a married couple who still likes each other.
That's awesome.
And you know what? You guys
Yeah.
are together a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even when I've been to see the Booth Brothers, and we'll talk about some of that, but those dates, I've seen you there at those,
Oh, yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and I
I'm
can't
his
keep
biggest
track
fan.
of who you're working with. Either.
Me either, man. I filled in for Greater Vision a while back, and Gerald said, "I'd hire you, but you don't need another job." So I didn't know what group I was with. That same weekend, I sung with Jim and Melissa, Booth Brothers, and then flew out and met Greater Vision, helped them. So I'll just sing with anybody.
And I always wonder, yes, obviously you can do that vocally, but I can't process how you memorize that many songs. Is it just because you're a fan anyway and already know their stuff?
You know what? I worked at it. I on the plane and the ride. I did have headphones in listening because there's no time for rehearsal. No rehearsal with Greater Vision when I filled in for the Booth Brothers for the first time with Gaither.
Yeah.
No rehearsal. So I listen a lot. But I'm a fan of the music, and I love great songs. And to me, I always say, and you'll get a kick out of this being a great writer, I always say that great written songs, I can remember
They're easier to
because
get.
the lyric, the lyric is a story.
I believe it.
And,
Yeah.
and it flows. And so many of those songs that I had to learn quickly were in my heart and in my mind. So I just kept
Actually,
listening.
that one weekend, he sang with the Booth Brothers, and then we drove somewhere together, and the entire trip of us going to our event,
He was working on
we
him.
were listening to Greater Vision. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do I remember that you filled in for like hoppers?
A lot.
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember that. I
Hoppers.
remember seeing her at Quartet
Yeah.
Convention filling
Oh, yeah.
in for the
Yeah.
Hoppers. That's
And
our
the
first-
Martins
Yeah,
and,
the Martins,
and
yeah.
others. Yeah.
Yeah.
So between the two of you, you've got a pretty fat resume. You could list every group out there at some point you
Well,
worked with.
I think we're fans of the music, really.
You
I mean,
are.
the
They
first
are.
when you start thinking about our childhood,
Yeah.
we grew up loving
Yeah.
this music, and
Yeah.
so it's in us. My mom and dad played it around the house, and so it got into my heart at a young age. And so, I mean, it's great to have a teleprompter, and it's
Yeah.
great to have
Yeah.
help when
Yeah.
you're learning these songs quickly. But for the most part, they're in your heart. And
Yeah.
the funny thing was when I filled in with Gerald, he said. He gave me a list of all these songs to learn. So I just listened because there was no rehearsal. You walk out
Right.
and sing it, and you got to know what part you're on.
Yeah.
And so I listened. When I got on stage, he said, "Now, Jim Brady says he's a Greater Vision fan. We're about to find out." This song was not on the list. And he called Just One More Soul, which is an old Greater Vision song that I knew, and I got through it.
And you,
But it's not something you think about
Yeah.
Yeah.
often. And so, but I think because I'm such a fan,
Yeah,
it comes
you
quicker.
are.
And I don't
Sure.
remember all of it, but I love this music, and I
Yeah.
love being able to
Yeah.
be part of it. So both of us from
You've also had the advantage of you've written some of the Greater Vision songs. That doesn't hurt.
I knew those. So you can't. What I joked when I said just because you write them don't mean you can remember.
That's exactly
So
right.
it's like
That's
you
true.
it's bad when you forget your own lyrics.
And the
But-
older you get, I was sitting in church one Sunday. You know my daughter Allison.
Yes.
I was sitting there with her, and somebody was singing something, and I said, "Boy, that sounds familiar. Was this?" And I listed an artist. She said, "No, you wrote that."
wrote-
Oh,
That's so
that's
funny.
funny.
You've written a lot when you can't remember
Yeah.
what you write.
And,
That's
and there
great.
used to be a game on TV that was like a trivia game of CCM music,
Oh yeah.
and one of the songs had a question about crucified with Christ
Oh.
on the lyric, and I missed it.
Oh, that's great.
That's funny.
And I wasn't. I mean, I just you move on and
Yeah.
you forget.
Have you ever listened to the radio and thought, who wrote this song?
Yes.
And it was yours. I've done that and
Yes.
thought, okay, I probably would write that a little different today.
Yes.
And
And
so,
that's part of the looking back. And speaking of writing, you and I've written. You and I've written. The three of us have written.
right.
One of the things I'm intrigued by it. So Melissa, you lean toward, and I'm way out on a limb here. I don't know, but like I've heard you do stuff that you've written by yourself, and the chords and even the melody, you tend to lean a little bit more Broadway, classical approach. Like they're not inherent Southern gospel progressions
Okay.
and stuff. Is that
I've never done that intentionally. I just like the
Do you hear
slow,
that,
pretty
Jim?
songs.
Absolutely. I think she writes a form of what she listens to.
Yeah.
And really she gravitates to the old movie soundtracks.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the
I hear
Broadway
it.
stuff and the classical. And I think her style for me, when I listen, I hear that very strongly. And the other side of that, I hear Brooklyn Tab sound.
Yes, I
because
think
Yes.
when we were dating, I
real
remember when we were dating, it was
inspirational.
either Brooklyn Tabernacle that she was
Yeah.
playing, or it was Natalie Cole.
Which I
So that's
love
kind
that.
of what she.
That
Yes.
describes it perfectly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're
That's-
exactly right.
Those are two of my greatest loves, music wise, like
Yeah.
style wise.
Yeah.
I love the choir, and I love old classics.
That's a great.
Yeah.
What's I'm trying to think of the song that I heard that is when that kind of hit me. Did you write a song called
Well, here we go.
Oh, I know what he's gonna say.
Heaven.
Heaven, heaven.
That's
One day I'll finally
voice.
see.
That's a great example of that too.
Okay.
Ronnie Booth cut that song, and she also sings it, and that's got that jazz, that old jazz.
What's the title? I'm trying to think of. Did you write something called like Somebody Did Somebody Wrong song?
Oh, my
that's
word.
funny. How in
I
the
don't even
world-
remember that one. But
Is that
yes,
right?
I did. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing those.
Scary.
Somebody did me wrong song.
But it
Yeah,
felt like
that,
something
yeah.
I would have heard in an old movie or.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
We have
wow.
not-
He
we've never
does
even-
pay
He,
attention.
he does.
We have never even recorded. That's something she just did on a whim
fun.
and put it up on a video thing. So
I'm here for you.
That's pretty good.
I love it.
I forgot about that.
I'm
'cause
working
we've never
on
recorded it.
a new one that's definitely going to be jazzy, a love song, and I have the word bamboozled in it. I can't wait for you to hear it.
That's
That
What
is
rhymes
awesome.
with that? We'll
Well,
find out. Huh?
it doesn't have to rhyme because it's it's like the third word in the verse. It's all good.
Well, don't call
It's not
me.
the rhyming word.
Don't call me to help you on that one.
Bamboozle.
But rhyme does matter to you?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So when you write with younger writers, I've heard it more than I want to, but they'll say, it doesn't have to rhyme anymore. And I'm going,
Oh, but yeah.
technically you're probably right,
Yeah.
but gosh, there's still something
Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. I
that
mean,
it lays on the ear
Yeah.
when you go to
Yes.
memorize
Yeah.
a song.
there's
You-
no
yeah.
doubt it matters. Yeah.
So if I remember this right, you took songwriting at Berkeley. Like you have they don't do
Yeah.
diplomas, they do
They called it a
certificates.
master certificate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You went to the master's certificate with Squire Parsons.
Oh my
Yeah.
Lord. Yeah. I mean, songwriters are my heroes. I mean, we've been so blessed to meet so many of our heroes in gospel music, but but really the people who put the songs together are my heroes.
Yeah.
Obviously, Melissa has studied. I've studied the lyrics inside the CD jackets
Yeah.
and the songs. And then when I was a kid, my dad was an evangelist, and we would sing for his revivals. And back in those days, we would sing the popular songs.
Right.
And we would get up and we'd sing, and actually someone would be before us and they'd sing the song we were going to sing, or we'd sing the song they were going to sing. And so it was all the popular songs. So I thought in my mind, my 12-year-old mind back then, I thought, I need to write some songs so we don't get the same. Well, I started writing songs and they were bad. They just were not working. And I'd go, okay, now why is that Squire Parsons song
Yeah.
working so well? Why does this Mosey Lister song and mine it's not? And so I started realizing that they would shine the light on the power words and the way they would phrase and the way they would have the melody go up when the lyric was positive and all those little nuances that writers do.
Yeah.
I started studying why they worked. And when I'm still studying, I'm still watching that. And when I see a song, a Squire Parsons song or a Dottie Rambo song or Mosey Lister or Dave Clark,
I was going to say a Dave Clark
I'm
song.
amazed at how powerful that is.
Yeah.
It's very intentional, and we talk about it as different levels of listening.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So you want it to reach that initial I just listen to whatever,
Right.
and then I want to go back and I want them to hear something else, and about the third time that you go, boy, that must have been on purpose at some level.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. That's two different schools of thought. When you guys write together, do you learn from each other, or
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And you know what's funny is we're very different. Melissa is very, she can teach songwriting very well, and she's technical and she knows all. I write, and not that she's not emotional, because her stuff has a lot of emotion in it, but I write more from an emotional place because I've studied these songs and know how they make me feel. And then, I have to, when I'm doing that, I'm not editing. I'm just, and then comes the editor later. You got to go, okay, well we've got to fix that line.
But here's the other thing too. He will edit less, but then also work harder to get where he wants to go. Like he doesn't give up until he gets it where he wants it.
Melissa is so
he works
strong.
harder than I do.
And she's so strong at the piano. She can sit there and make something sound really good. And then I go in and go, you know what? Okay, that sounds amazing. Now, let's really make sure we're locking this thought down, make sure it really works. And so we write together very well. We don't always write together, but when we do, it's pretty interesting. And it's like I've told somebody the other day, every co-writer I've ever written with, including Melissa, I've learned something from.
Yes.
You have your strengths, and Tony Wood has his
I'm still
strengths.
looking for my strengths. But when that, just knowing the two backgrounds, I mean, you hear it, Dusty, from a song that you're going, okay, that Melissa's a little winning on that one stylistically, and yet somehow you both know enough to stay out of the way too.
Yeah.
I think so, and I think a lot of times I'm more, I guess I get excited and I bring an idea and I drive until it's done. Melissa is so good; she just pretty much will sit down and do it, and if it doesn't just come, then she might lay it aside and move on to something
and
else.
say, I'll go back to it later, and then sometimes forget to go back to it
she's,
later.
She's very gifted, but I think, and I always say, Melissa's way more gifted than I am, but I think I work pretty hard at what I do. And so I think together we're a great team because I feel like what I'm strong at, it helps with what she does. She's strong at things I'm not. And so it's funny. We take different roles at times as we're writing.
Yep.
That's really good. I mean, and I agree. When we were picking songs for the record, the last record, it was interesting to watch them talk about each song and to walk through each song and how you'd written and the co-writes and everything. So and then just watching you together, they're probably one of the people that I look at and think, they really do love each other and believe in each
and they're
other.
Compatible.
And they're
according to the song.
Well, exactly.
And they're I mean, they're just. I love how they feed on each other. Even I got to see them a couple of weeks ago in Jackson, and just watch. And I've seen them a lot, but just watching them how there's not a competition. There's not which there really shouldn't be. But but sometimes I've seen that in husband and wife groups or whatever. But it's how they feed on each other and how they know their places and they know their gift, and you feel that you do. You feel that.
I think it's knowing your lane.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me the other day, so why don't you do solo? I said, because I'm not a soloist. I need.
Let's talk about that.
I'm like, I can't sing B flats and C's, but she can sing D's and E's, and so I carry her and let her sing those. But we're a team, really, and it's that way it's that way in life. It's that way in the music that we do. It's that way in songwriting. I always say we're very different, but it's the diversity in our personalities that make us strong.
And I think one thing that's helped us is when we talk about a song that we're looking at the lyric, especially we'll talk more about lyrics differently because he's really strongly opinionated about a lyric. He'll let me get by with a chord progression that he'll like, that's fine, But we'll be talking about a lyric and it will strike me one way and strike him another way. And that says to us, well, what about the listener then? If you look at it this way and I look at it this way, how can we look at it in a way that it's even more universal? Because if it's different for you and I, just this one line right here, then it's going to be different to other people as well. And so that helps us look deeper into a lyric sometimes.
The music is absolutely as important, I'm sure, as the lyric. But what gets me first is the it's a marriage. You got to have a great melody and a great lyric.
Yes.
But what hits me first is, I can, as a singer and a good player, we can make the music, creative in the arrangement. The lyric has to speak to me, and it has to. It has. Somebody told me, and I don't know, but a lot of major artists, they said back in the day, they said they would read the demo lyric without the music. They'd read the lyric first, and if it didn't jump off the page to them, then forget. I don't even want to hear it. And so I think that's where I'm opinionated. I have an idea of what I want to say and how I want it to be, and it's vitally important. And it does have to be universal because, like you said, if she feels one way, I feel another. How's the audience going to feel? And it's so very important.
There's an old story. Somebody pitched when Larnell started writing. He said it changed how he sang, because he began to listen for different things in songs, and all of a sudden he knew more about how to. He said he started recording better songs, even when he didn't write them.
Yeah.
And one of the funny stories, and he would call and say, "Is this good? Is this?" But I love the dialogue, and he said at one point somebody sent him a lyric and said, you need to hear the music for this song to make sense. And he wrote back and said, if I need to hear the music for it to stand up, the lyric isn't done yet.
I love
that's
that.
good.
I love that.
That's very good.
And I think I'm telling this story right. Bill Gaither told me one time he was doing something with Larnell, and he said, "Hey, we're walking out to sing, and I want you to sing this verse." And he said, "What's the lyrics?" He said, "They're on the screen. They'll be on the teleprompter." And Larnell said, No. Give me the lyric. I want to run it through my head.
Yes.
Larnell is a storyteller.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And when Larnell has that lyric in
So
his head,
true.
it's
Yes.
here,
Yep.
and he delivers it, which
Yep.
I love. You know, a lot
Yes.
of singers will go out and just read the teleprompter.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's there
Yeah.
many times, believe me, but I want to know the lyrics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to
Yeah.
me, as a writer, this is funny. Went back in all those years with the Booth Brothers, Michael and Ronnie not being writers until recently, they would say, "Hey, tell this demo is Terry Franklin. It's amazing. Tell me about this lyric. Does this feel right?" And I would look through and say, "Man, this is great," or "This is not, not up to par." It's funny to me, but, yet, and all those little words. Though people
Yes.
throw in these words, which bugs me sometimes,
Yes.
because when you're writing, those little words are a big deal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And when you
They
change
each mean
when you
something
add
different.
something
They
or
do.
add this or change
Yep.
it's frustrating to me as a writer. So that's why when we write, I have a strong opinion about the way it should go. It doesn't mean
Really?
it's right, but it feels,
Yeah.
and it has to, because
Yeah.
if it doesn't feel right on the front, it
it's
won't
got to
listen
feel
right.
right. It's got to feel right.
That's great. And
Yeah.
I always tell people I write lyrics by ear, and you normally only hear that about music, but I'll read it out loud,
Yeah.
Oh yes.
and if it doesn't sound right when I say it, and
I love that.
we talk a lot and joke a lot about Tony Wood because he deserves every bit he gets. But there have been times in a writer's thing I'd say, how when Tony writes, he'll stop and just read it out loud,
Right.
and he puts all that cadence with it, and I'll go, let's call Tony and have him read this.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I love
I've got to
that.
say, I love writing with you because, one of the things, it was about lyrics. I'll come up with a word or two, and you'll just sit there and you're looking at your computer, or you're just kind of listening and thinking and kind of getting you're getting the temperature of the room, you're listening to the stories, and then you'll come out with it'll be like a phrase or a verse. I mean, I know we were writing one time over at Word, and we were working on that Christmas song. And we had written the first verse and the chorus, and Melissa's at the piano. I'm humming these melodies, and you're shooting these lyrics to us, and they're awesome. Well, we get to the second verse, and I'm like, man, that first verse and chorus is so strong. Where in the world? What do we do from here? Where do we go from here? And she's playing, and I'm just thinking, and I've got nothing. And you're just kind of walking around the room, and then you said, "What about?" And that whole second verse was
And there we go.
here,
But
done.
that song is called "That's What Christmas Is."
Exactly what it is.
And one of the best Christmas records ever.
One of the very best Christmas records.
And it's got all
I
the
do
Broadway
love that
feel.
No,
It's got,
it does. It
but
does.
Jason Webb is
What an
an
amazing,
absolute
brilliant
genius.
mind.
Yeah.
And the
Yes.
cover screams
Yes.
Christmas. I've said that. Remember we talked about it's
That was
it's
a fun
just-
record
it's a
to
But
do.
then
great-
the
Right.
LP is
And
also
the
red.
LP, you're exactly
Yeah.
right.
But
Makes
on
me
that
smile.
day, we sat in a room
Yeah.
and we started talking about family.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
about people we'd lost that we loved, and we started comparing notes, and then you're talking and the level of grief, and your
Right.
your sister and your dad, and
Absolutely.
and your mom, and I mean, just we're just talking about stuff.
Yeah.
And if that conversation is real, I didn't have to sit and try to come up with something.
Right.
I had to come out with something. I had to write down what crystallize what was being talked about in the room. And so at that point there's no rewrite because it's so authentic at that point.
It was wow. It was emotional. That was a fun record to write and a fun record to record.
Yeah.
But that day was special. That'll be one of the co-writing sessions I remember for years.
Well, and
Yeah.
me as well.
Special.
And Dusty, you remember the song.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things we were talking about in the midst of it was that my dad always read the Christmas story. And
Yes.
Jim,
Yep.
mine did too.
Yep.
And those kind of little things.
Yep.
And when you hear that cut, they ended up going and getting family to read pieces of the Christmas
Absolutely.
story on the record.
Cool. Oh,
My heart still
yep.
swells when
Yep.
I think about that.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
it was just amazing
sweet.
to you found a muse in that
Yeah.
room in that day in that story because as she's playing and I'm singing through that chorus that was already written down. When you started, it was like you got away from your computer and stood up and said, "Somewhere bells are ringing," and you started that
Yep.
second
Yep.
verse, and I'm like,
Yep.
But I hear things in my head. so
yeah.
they
Well, I
can
was like,
tell.
I'm like, somebody's talking to him, and that was an amazing, and I love it. And it doesn't always happen that way, but when
No.
it does, it's pretty special.
So
Yeah.
if I remember right, I showed up we're going to write Christmas, but we ended up talking about people dying and
Right.
losing
It
it.
was.
And all I had when I walked in that room was a line that said, staring out the window, cold December snow, I'll be home for Christmas playing on the radio. That's all.
That's it.
Wow.
Now,
what happened.
do you remember what happened? One of the coolest moments in Nashville for me happened as we listened down to the master. Do you remember what happened that day?
I think so, but tell me again, because I remember you mentioned that.
So
story.
Jason Webb calls Dusty. We're going to meet over at Day One. They're going to play the mix for the first time. And I don't know how I stumbled into it, but they were like, come on. Well, sure, I want to hear it. And when I had that line staring out the window, there's a house in Michigan that my dad built. And it's where we lived until I moved away. And it had a big picture window. It wasn't that fancy of a house, but it had a big picture window like they all did. And Christmases that I remember were staring out that window.
So sweet.
And so we sold that house. My parents ended up selling it, moving to Nashville. I've never been back in that house again. But like the basement, we had a music room that was just mine. I had 3 sisters. They couldn't go in there. That was
What
my
memories,
room.
yeah.
And so we're sitting in the studio listening to that song that my mind was started in my head about that house in Michigan. And a message pops up from my sister who lives in Memphis, and she said, hey, I'm on Facebook, and she named the family that bought the house. She said, they just posted pictures of the house decorated for Christmas.
Wow.
And we're in the middle of listening to that
I
song.
remember that, yeah.
And you looked
So
over, and
sweet.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps again
I'm
hearing
a
the
wreck.
story.
We all cried.
That's sweet.
but again, authenticity.
Yes. Yeah.
So you traveled, you traveled like what 9 or 10 years with your family, with your dad, your mom.
Yep, the Schulers.
Your dad was quite a guitar player.
He
Oh, yeah.
still is.
He's great.
He can play anything he hears.
Did he have like a Takamine, a red?
He absolutely
had
did.
yes, he had that.
He played it
and
on
then,
one of those videos with Tradition Records.
That's maybe where I
Yeah.
saw it.
And great guitar player, great
Yeah.
preacher, great singer.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, a lot of when Melissa and I got married, I was traveling with my family, and she came and traveled with us for a few months, and then we left my family. And there was they called us God's Brady Bunch. There was a bunch of us, there was 5 sisters, 2 brothers, mom and dad, and we all traveled together. So they had enough. So Melissa and I went and joined her mom and dad, and we traveled as the Schulers for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Was it like Jacob and Laban, where you had to work?
You had to work.
Yeah,
Well, work for 9 years.
well,
to get
no, but you know what? Her dad and mom were great. I mean, obviously living in close quarters, being newly married,
Yeah.
it'd have to be God, because for that to all work out with all the family dynamic. I mean, we're newly married and we're living in a
She's the
little
only-
bitty old RV,
only child.
traveling together. She's the
Daddy's
only
girl.
child. I'm
Girl.
a big family.
Yep. Yep.
My family gets together at Thanksgiving. We all talk at one time, and she's not used to that.
Yeah.
All that. But the Lord really directed our steps.
Yeah.
We went to with her mom and dad and traveled with them for almost 10 years. And in that time, Melissa and I were writing songs. We were writing songs, and I really didn't know I would do this, because we were in evangelism with our families. And I thought, well, the Lord wants me to stay here, do this, and I'm going to write some songs and try to get some songs for people to hear. But I really didn't intend to bring them myself and sing. I just thought, well, I'm a songwriter, and that's what I'm going to do. Well, we started writing during that time a lot. I mean, we wrote everything we sang back in those days. And, some of the songs were getting out from time to time. And we sang at a church. The Schulers sang at Dayspring Church of God right around Cincinnati, Ohio. And the bishops were there, and Ivan Parker. And there was a local group that went on first. Then we went on second. And then I think it was Ivan and then the bishops. And so normally the A groups, we call them, the big groups, they're not even in there when you're singing, So I'm young and excited and thinking, man, we got booked on this date. I sure hope they come
We're
in.
singing with Ivan Parker.
I hope I hope he even hears us, Well, he came in that night, and he came in and listened to our set. And when the set was over, he came up to me after the set and said, hey, where are you getting those songs? And I said, well, we wrote them. He said, can I listen to your new album? He said, I'm looking for songs. I'm like, evermore, yes, And so at that point, he was so nice. So one of the first major cuts that we ever had was Ivan Parker.
Wow.
And then groups like the Wisnets started recording our songs, and the Hoppers started recording our songs. So our songs really started getting cut before we were even out here singing.
Because
And-
back when they were recording our songs, the greatest thing that the Schulers had at the Quartet Convention was we got to loan our vacuum cleaner to the Hoppers.
Yeah,
that was our claim to fame
we were
for
right
a while.
across the booth, the aisle. Our booth was right across the aisle from the Hoppers, and nobody knew us. So nobody was stopping. We were standing there all week wishing somebody would stop. Well, you know, Claude saw that. We had a nice couch. He'd use our booth for meetings. He'd come over.
Yep.
And so we're like, Claude Hopper's in our booth.
That's
And
great.
Wow.
Funny story, though, about
This
that,
is my
that
favorite
booth.
NQC story.
With no
what
traffic,
he's gonna
nothing
tell.
happening. You know, Claude would come over and use the couch and have a meeting, and that was the only action we'd get all week. Well, I got to tell you, a wonderful time. We were standing there. George Yance walked in the building, and I loved the cathedrals, and George Yance was one of my heroes.
And George and I shared the same birthday, so
Absolutely.
I thought that was
Yeah, there you
really
go.
awesome.
So we love George. Well, George walked in that side, and he was going to walk past our booth to get to the cathedral booth. So as he walked in, I thought, this is my chance. He's always got a crowd around him. I need a picture. So I said, hey, Mr. Yance, can I get a picture? He said, why, sure. So he stepped in our booth. And by the time we took the picture, there was a line all the way around the Hoppers, all the way out into the lobby.
Yeah.
And so
he's
we had
George.
for about an hour, he stood there and signed autographs.
In our booth.
took
That
pictures.
is awesome.
And then classic George, he got ready to leave after about an hour of autograph. He said, I need to get to the cathedral booth. He said, young man, he said, I'll come back in an hour and draw you another crowd.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
that funny?
So that was the only time we had a crowd at
That
our
is
booth
so
at
great.
NQC.
George.
That is so good.
But those are the days that are
yeah,
precious to
yeah,
us. That's
yep,
that's
I
what
agree.
we were doing, and what
I
our heart,
agree.
our heart fell
Yep.
in love with these songs, and we
Yep.
wrote songs. And then during that time, Melissa's dad had some health issues. He had to come off the road, and that was when I got the call from the Booth Brothers to fill in with them. They called on a Tuesday. I met them on a Friday. Was it a Friday? Thursday or Friday? I think. Maybe
Thursday,
a
I
Thursday.
think.
They
Yeah.
called on a Tuesday. I met them on Thursday. Back then it was called Bridgestone Arena, I believe, in
sure.
Nashville
Yep.
with the Gaithers. And they had, back then we didn't have the internet the way we do now. I mean,
No.
I'm sure it was here, but we didn't have a way to get
Right,
music files
right, yep.
as quickly. So they overnighted me everything on Tuesday, and I did nothing but listen all day Wednesday, met them Thursday, and had no clue what I was doing. But I did my work, and I listened to everything I thought
I was there.
Bill Gaither may call. What a night, you know.
And
I
I
was
just
there.
kept telling him, you'll be fine. You'll be
Yeah,
able to do it.
of course
I didn't
you
tell
will.
him I didn't think
Yeah.
I'd be able to do
Yeah.
it, but I told him I knew he could.
Well, we didn't rehearse. It's funny. I got to the bus, and I said to Michael and Ryan, I said, Are we gonna rehearse? And they're like, No, let's go eat. I'm like, who wants to eat? I got to learn my songs,
Yeah.
you know. And we went and ate, came back, thought we're going to rehearse. Well, we never rehearsed. What they did, Nick Bruno, their buddy, their producer, he went to Anthony Berger's bus and got a keyboard. And he brought it and put it on the table of the Booth Brother bus. And while the guys were getting ready, he said to me, come here, sing me your part. And he just played out the notes.
That's
And I sang him
awesome.
my harmony part with no melody, just he said, you got your part. He said, if you can do that, it'll work. He said, you got your part. So he went through a few songs, and that was really
That
it.
was it.
And we
Yeah.
hit the stage, and I mean, it obviously got better as
Yeah.
time went on.
Yeah.
But that
You
first,
think?
well, I hope it did. but I'm saying that first
Yeah,
night,
yeah.
something happened. The
Yeah.
magic of
Yeah.
with
It
no
was.
rehearsal.
Yep, it
We
was.
just hit that night, hit that chord. And I always joked and say, I was filling in, and I stayed filling in with them for 13 years,
Yeah.
and then was gone for 7 years, and now I'm back. So it's a full circle thing, and Michael and Ronnie are like brothers to me.
Great.
And she waited all those years. She's a great singer, and never tried to pull me off the road, but always encouraged me and just helped me in
That's
what
great.
what I was doing. But I knew there was something more at that time.
Yeah.
And so when I left them, it was bittersweet because there was no. I'm thankful they weren't happy to get rid of me. They weren't throwing me off the bus.
Right.
But it was a sweet time, and it was a difficult time because the success of
Yes.
the group was
Yeah.
at its peak.
Yep.
But yet I knew the Lord had something for us, and so they were gracious. And what I thought I was doing for them, God returned helped me. I said, he told them I was leaving, and I knew they were recording and working on new projects, and so I said, I want to let you know now, so you can prepare. And they said, how long can you stay? I said, I can stay as long as you need me to, but I just wanted to let you know before you make a new album,
Yeah.
photo shoot,
Yep.
all this
Yep.
stuff. And so they said, we really appreciate that. Well, this was in June. They said, can you stay till the end of the year? And I said, sure, no problem. I thought I was doing that to help them and let them get a new recording with a new singer and let them make the transition, and they could just ease right into it. But what God did for us was when I stepped off the Booth Brother bus, the very next day we started our new endeavor, our new ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Our whole entire year was booked.
Wow.
I mean, we walked off their bus and had the whole year booked.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I told the booking agent, the Harper agency, I told him, I said, I don't know if anybody's going to have us, so go ahead and book whatever comes in. And that first year, we literally worked every week but Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And God blessed, and it's been an
Yep.
amazing ride. And when things happen right and happen the way the Lord wants them to, it's a precious thing.
Yeah,
'Cause
it is.
now I still sing with the Booth Brothers. We connect with them all the time. They're family to me, brothers to me, and God is using our ministry,
Yes,
and we're
He
very
is.
grateful.
I'm convinced any group out there, if somebody needs a day off, they call Jim.
He's the busiest guy out there. He really is. Yeah.
Well,
Well, he can learn a part really
Yes,
quickly.
Yes.
Yes.
And then his blend is so
Yes.
great
He
that
is.
he can
Yeah.
fit their personality when he
Yep,
needs
you're
to.
right.
You know,
Yep.
that's rare.
And that's very rare.
Yeah.
So when you did the Schulers, and then you talked about the Booth Brothers, and then right in what I would think would have been, hey, it's our time. We're about to something happened in the world, and that was COVID.
absolutely.
Oh, gee. Yep.
You know what was really interesting about that was we had started as a trio,
Yeah.
and had a couple talented guys with us,
Yeah.
and but didn't stay, and no issues, no hard feelings. It just didn't work out, and we were trying to find a third person, and we thought, because I love harmony. I grew up singing harmony, and I thought we got to have that third.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know very many duets, not many duos in Southern gospel. And so we were thinking about trying to find that third part, and the more we tried and the more we pursued, we thought, no, God may be leading us just to do a duo thing.
Yeah.
And I was talking with Bill Gaither, and he said, I think you could do it. He said it'll look smaller because you've got 3 people going down to 2, but he said you'll make your rounds, and if you connect and pick the right songs and things happen, he said I think it could work. And so his encouragement, our booking agent's encouragement, our record label.
It was my first record to fully.
Yes.
Was it really?
At the label, it was my first to sit in on the songs, to help style,
Yeah,
to help
I
pick
got
out.
it.
And it honestly, and I'm not. Jesus knows, 2 of my favorite songs of all times, they're in my top 10, is on that record.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not going to tell you which one because I know you wrote part of it.
Every song's his favorite.
No, that's really not true. It's in my two of my favorite songs, and you guys know this because I've
Oh yeah.
Welcome and Ever Faithful. I heard Ever Faithful again a couple of weeks ago, sitting in the balcony in Jackson, and I'm telling you what, watching the response, looking down and seeing Cindy Clark and Allison.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
Crying.
seeing other
I was
people,
crying.
people standing up
Yeah.
because he is ever
Let's-
faithful.
Yes.
Let's peel that
Amen
back
to
a little
that.
bit.
I mean,
and
that
by the
song.
way,
Yeah.
It
you
just
mentioned my
moves me.
wife and daughter were
Yep,
there.
Yep.
They drove down there
Yep.
that day, just to drive down
And I didn't know that.
to,
Until I saw it.
because there was another artist there that's like
Sure.
family, and they went to pray with her. They drove to
what a-
Jackson to pray with her,
Amazing.
and they knew that part of it. What Cindy told me when she got home was what they didn't expect, was what God did
Yep.
for them, which was to hear you guys sing Ever
That's
Present, Ever
incredible.
Faithful.
That song to me, and
Oh.
I'm glad you brought that up.
It-
Was I felt like when it was written, it was a good song. However, it's not a big ending.
Yeah.
It's not one of those big arrangement type things that I thought would be a big radio song or would work. But let me tell you, it absolutely works. We sing it every night.
Oh,
So that was
Yeah.
a lot of special things around that song that
Yes.
you may not know. That first of all, it was written during COVID. We weren't supposed to be in a
Absolutely.
room,
Yep,
but
you're
we
right.
snuck down
Yeah.
to
Right.
Word with you and Don Cook.
with masks.
Yes.
wow.
And I kind of sat over in the room because you and
Yep.
Don hadn't been together all that much at that
Right.
point, and I was just listening to you guys talk, and then we went to Michigan just to
Right.
for a random trip, and we found out from a friend, Dave Thurston, that you guys were singing in Lansing. We went that night.
Yes.
That was the first night you had that record.
We debuted it, I think, that
Yes.
night, and we and I love to. I'm a perfectionist. I always want things to be, and it was so new. I almost didn't do it, but when I found out you were going to be there, I thought we've got to do this song. And I'm telling you what, the first time we sang that song, I thought, oh my goodness, there's something special about this song.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
Dave, and you probably remember this. I remember being in that room. And it was taking a little while to get started,
Yeah.
But what was amazing to me that happened, you're telling about the faithfulness of God in your life. Don's telling his story. I'm telling my story about God's faithfulness. And you're over there working and writing, and we're all. And really, it was one of those things where it didn't feel like a co-writing session. Before we knew it, the song was taking shape. And it was just us telling stories about God's faithfulness in our life. And amazing, that was on that album you're talking about.
And I've heard you sing it numerous times. Gaithers. I've heard you sing it at hymn sings.
Yeah.
And I promise, I don't think I've seen a song in years and years that does not affect people like this song does.
But another couple of
Thank the
things with
Lord.
that song, I've told you this, that Don Cook had cancer. He knew he had cancer
Right.
when that was written.
Right.
And the thing about, there are songs, and I've written them, that talk about how faithful God has been. That song keeps it in the present
That
and
sure
the future.
does. It sure does. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and Don made his first trip ever to Quartet Convention a few months before he passed. And that was the last song. We sat there in the back of that auditorium that night. And he didn't know anything about Southern, but I got to introduce him to all these people who had recorded so many of his songs.
Right.
And that night, the last song that he ever heard of his was Jim and Melissa singing Ever Present, Ever Faithful. And he watched it work. We sat there with Ed Harper in the back of that auditorium that night.
Wow.
And I will never forget that night, ever.
It was a special night, and you know what is amazing about that is that song has the anointing of the Lord, because when we sing it, that happens every night. We one of the very first times, it wasn't the night you were in Michigan with us, but we started singing it, and one of the very first nights, maybe the second or third night we sang it, it's one of those soft endings where you don't, it's not a big, you kind of just let it lay. And as it ended, the room just, it started to just, you could feel
The worship.
the worship that was
that's
falling
what-
on that room. And she just started singing Hallelujah.
Yeah.
And when we sang it, and the crowd started singing it, and then we
That's
sang it
the way
again,
it's supposed to
and then we walked off. But that song brings the presence
does.
of the Lord in those moments,
And it's the truth of the gospel.
that song's been
Yeah.
a gift.
Truth.
It's been a gift to
It's
us
the truth
because,
of what it's all about.
as I
Yeah.
was saying earlier, being the duo thing, the song has been a gift to us because we never planned to be a duo.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to be a trio, and yet God was faithful.
Yes, he was.
in our journey, that when we thought it was the end, it's become the beginning of some of our best years. And
Yeah.
COVID hit
Yes.
in 2019 and or 20 for that year, but we had become a duo at the end of 2019, and I thought, how can we introduce a duo? They saw us as a trio. Now we're sitting home. We feel like God wants us to do this as a duo, but we can't tell anybody that we're a duo. So we're sitting home with all these songs and the passion to sing, and yet we can't go anywhere. And the song Ever Present, Ever Faithful was written in that moment. And now, as God is opening doors, that song is a gift to us on this journey. And it's unbelievable.
That's a gift to a lot of us. And you also remember, I'm sure, that Dusty, you may not even know this, but that was the day that I heard that for the first time, was the day that I had circled on the calendar as I was done. Do you know this, Melissa?
No.
I have heard this. Yeah.
So I had one co-write, and my thing was always I didn't want to outright my career. I don't want to overstay, and God's been so good for so many, not even years, but decades.
Right.
And that day I had circled with a co-writer, and I didn't tell him. I went in. It went way better than I thought it would. I leave there. I get home. I get an email from Dusty Wells saying, we didn't want to tell you this, but Southbound just cut Strange Way to Save the World. Thought you might want to hear it.
Wow.
So while I'm listening to that, a text pops up from Jonathan Buckner with Chosen Road. We didn't want to tell you, but we cut your song on our new record. While I'm listening to that, an email pops up from Don Cook and says, I thought you might want to hear your cut on the new Avalon record. Wow. I didn't know I had that cut.
Wow.
And I get done with that, and you send a text, and it says, here's the mix. I didn't know. I said, I didn't know you'd record. I didn't know it was finished.
It was the last song picked for that record.
It was.
And I told you later, I went out, I just drove around, I put that on a loop. I came back in, I was crying, and Cindy said, what's the matter? I said, a writer never has a day when you get 5 cuts, let alone 5 cuts you didn't know about. And she said, you think God maybe is saying you're not done yet? I said, yeah, I'm not real smart. But
Ever faithful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love those stories. And I know this is your podcast. You're asking the questions, but I got a question. You're great about, and when you ask about songs, you'll say what cut number on the CD, or you'll figure out the sequence. Okay, you've guessed that's what Christmas is and Ever Faithful, where they would be on the record. You got to tell me a little bit about that. How you process that.
Don and I, that was something Don and I, we talked extensively about. We always wanted the last cut on a record, even though that was never the single.
Okay.
Because that was the one that people had to listen a little closer to. We wanted the first cut because that was the single.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was, you can't always get it right, but yes. And you and Tony Wood are probably the only 2 people I know that know sequences of records from 30 years ago.
Well, yeah. And what's funny is some of those records that I love so much, I'll try, and I don't have perfect pitch by any means, but once the track is done, I'll hum the next tune, and a lot of times I'm close because I've remembered those records.
He's listened
much.
so many times.
I know what key they're in. I know what, and
you're a fan.
I love, and that's one thing about. I love, all the new technology and everything, and the way music is today. I'm grateful that we're singing to more people than we've ever sung to in our entire ministry. But I miss sometimes that, the sequence of the record, because on Apple you can pull a song and listen, and you don't know what but because I agonize over a sequence of a record and how it flows.
I still do.
And that's Dusty's domain too. You're not old enough to have remembered the 8 tracks when you had to try and sequence it based on where the click would not.
I tell it all the time. Dallas Home and Praise, Live Again. Rise Again was the biggest song on that record.
Sure.
And I can still remember playing that 8-track, and it would click at the end, almost at the end of that song. I would get so furious, so I'd go get the vinyl and play.
Oh, my goodness.
I hated playing the 8-track.
Oh, that's interesting. See, I didn't know that.
I love hearing that because I'm that guy. I'm kind of
sure you are.
I'm pretty crazy. I mean, I'll buy a CD or a record based on a title of a song.
Oh, me too.
If I see a title, I'm like, I'm buying this. I want to know how they got to that title.
Yep.
I stood in a class in Estes Park years and years ago, and I said, I just read about something this week that if it's true, it's going to change the landscape for songwriters, and it's called iTunes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I said, if here's what that effect will have on writers is, it used to be you could get a cut on a record and it paid the same. Now they're going to be able to buy the one song they want, if I'm understanding this correctly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I was a title reader too.
Yeah.
And you, all of a sudden, now you could just go find the song and look for a title, and you didn't have to buy the record and
listen to it. Yeah.
Yep.
So there's some fun parts to being around it for a while, and you know what? I still wake up in the middle of the night with the idea that won't let me go, and that's why I'm so thankful that God is ever present. He's ever faithful, and you can't outrun a call.
No.
Amen.
Yeah, that's so
That's
good.
awesome.
That's why we love to tell the stories.
We love to tell the story.
I love it.
Guys, this has been great tonight.
It's fun.
And
Wow.
yes, we did a podcast, I think, but it felt more like just sitting with friends.
Yep.
And
We just didn't have any chips and salsa this time.
we did not.
But we will, because we're Baptists,
Yeah,
and this Aaron
and
Wilburn used to say, our theme song is God be with us till
Till we
eat again.
Eat again.
That's so.